Hello, hello. This is Christina Barr. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello, hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to talk about an interesting video. Dylan Mulvaney finally came out and spoke about the Budweiser situation. For those of you who don't know, if you're living under a rock, Dylan Mulvaney has like upwards of 10 million followers on TikTok, and so he had a paid brand thing with Budlight, and it led to a lot of controversy. People stopped touching the thing, buying the beer, and so the company's lost a lot of money. And so there's been a lot of backlash. So Dylan decided to speak out about it. So now he's actually attacking it was a Freudian slip. Attacking Bud Light because they aren't standing by him. And I think it's interesting because he said that he felt bad, but now he's like, well, they need to stand by me. And it's like, they've lost enough. So why should you want them to double down instead of like try to save their company? Okay, that's interesting. But I think it's indicative of kind of where this culture war is going. And I think it's going in a positive direction, actually, because I'm going to reference an old video of his when he basically was like, one day your transphobia won't be tolerated online. And now it's to the point where they obviously thought that we were just heading in a trajectory of they were going to take the W's and we were going to take the L's. And no, it's not like that at all. And also we'll be talking about the Supreme Court issued 2 rulings. And so one, the student loan forgiveness has been just nixed because Joe Biden never had the authority. He never possessed the authority to just blanketly forgive student loans. And I'm sorry if you were excited about your student loan being canceled and you feel like those darn Republicans or that rogue court standing in the way. Biden should have never promised you something he knew was illegal that he could not deliver on. But they're hoping that the narrative, and it's obvious, and I'll play like some commentary like on MSNBC and stuff. I think it's MSNBC, could be CNN now that I think about it, but we'll see when we get there. Of these people who are saying, well, I hope people just remember whose fault it is. It's Joe Biden's fault. It's probably your fault. You can pay back your loan, but whose fault is it that your hopes and your dreams about this are just totally dashed? It's Joe Biden's fault. They knew that they had no right to do what he did. So also there was a win for religious liberty. There was a Christian graphic designer in Colorado, and the Supreme Court, in another 6-3 decision, ruled that the state can't force her to violate her religious beliefs. But what's so interesting about this today is that yesterday we talked about affirmative action, and the justices, the progressive liberal justices, whatever you want to refer to them, they had some pretty bold takes saying discrimination is good. Yes, schools should be able to discriminate against Asian people in favor of Black people, and that's a good thing, and it should continue. And just things that sounded pretty out there. Now today it's discrimination is bad. How dare you? So it's a flip. There's no sort of consistency there, other than we like this thing, so we're gonna bend the Constitution to our ideology rather than respecting the text. And I think that's pretty clear. I've heard plenty of jokes today about how Biden didn't appoint he appointed slate writers to the Supreme Court. And I think it's pretty evident. Diversity hires are always not good. Some people were pushing back on me because I had said that Ketanji Brown Jackson is a diversity hire. She wouldn't be there if she weren't Black, which is funny because she's saying that, we need affirmative action to get ahead. And that because black people are so discriminated against, it's like, ma'am, you all have a leg up because you are black. That's literally why you were picked. I'm not, I said repeatedly, I'm not saying that she doesn't have qualifications or whatever. I think there's some things that are absolutely negative in her column, and she shouldn't be there. And I think her dissents and opinions make it really evident that she should not be there. But in general, just because people have good things on their resume doesn't, you guys have worked before, right? At jobs. How many people have been managers over you, and you're like, how did they get this job? So just because someone has achievements, in life or certain things on their resume doesn't mean that they actually will do a job well and fill the position well. And she'll fill it well for what the goal was for people like Biden and stuff, but it was very evident that her ideology was like CRT, not to uphold the law, respect the Constitution, but to remake it into their image for their, dystopian sort of future. And this whiplash, man, with the like discrimination's bad today. We were for it yesterday. But the question really is, should the government be able to compel your speech? That's what it's really about. So people are upset about it. And it's kind of funny, but it's dark that so many people can't see what's happening. So anyway, before we jump into everything, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com. It costs to stream, costs to run my website, all those things. So if you can support, please, leave a gift, $10, $20, whatever. I very much appreciate it. You guys can leave things on super chat. Also, I'm still monetizing, get my, yet last week I couldn't stream at all because YouTube was mad about one of my pro-life videos. But my interview that I had with Deborah Tilden, which is no longer on YouTube, but you guys can go watch it on Rumble. So anyway, I still have my monetization, but last week I obviously couldn't produce any new content. So if you want to make up that difference, God bless you. But you guys can still do like super chats and super thanks and things like that. If you're watching on Facebook, you can send stars. Also check out different merch that we have at the store. I'll just show like a thing in like the I love this Constitution is a Glorious Liberty document shirt with Frederick Douglass, and I'll show the mug. Yeah, check out stuff at blacktnews.com, and also check out my books that I've written. I have over 30 books that I've written, 17 published. I have children's middle grade books. I've got, all kinds of like young adult stuff. But yeah, I got a lot of stuff, including my book, of course, God is blatantly against abortion, which covers theology and science and philosophy and all sorts of things. So you guys can check that out at blacktnews.com. If you go to the merch, if you're interested in any of my books, if you go to the merchandise page, there's a banner. They'll take you to my book website, ninjadustpublishing.com. But if you just search my name, Christina L. Barr, on Amazon, you will find everything. Shout out to people in the chat. I see you guys. And thank you to those who watch it live and comment and have conversations with each other. I really much appreciate it. And those of you who will watch it back later, I know not every, people work, people are driving, people are doing things. So, it's really flattering that people watch you live, and then people who are like, I gotta watch what happened today. So thank you very much. I do not have a meme for you guys today. I apologize. So we're just gonna jump, I guess, into the Dylan story first. I know so many people are sick of seeing this dude, but again, I think it's really indicative of kind of the direction of where we're going with our culture wars, because I think that it's very obvious to me from like earlier videos and stuff that Dylan produced or other people made, that they thought we were just like going toward a particular direction, and no one could stop them. And I think Matt Walsh really, did a big dent when he went on Dr. Phil and just asked like really simple questions like, what is a woman? And no one could answer those questions. And he did his documentary and just asked really simple questions. What is a woman? And people didn't like that. Then, Elon Musk bought Twitter. And he bought Twitter after Babylon Bee got locked out of their account. And they got locked out of their account because they said that Rachel Levine got is man of the year. And Rachel Levine is our assistant health secretary. If you don't know, if you're watching overseas somewhere, you don't follow our politics that religiously, but there's people in the US who I'm sure don't know either. But it's Levine is a man, is a trans woman who, by the way, is one of is a person who is not only a diversity hire, it's like he's a spite hire, because um Levine did some pretty crappy things during the pandemic. Um with nursing homes, like they knew the nursing homes were a dangerous place to have people intermingle with COVID. And Levine made sure to get his mother out. Everyone else, you were just kind of screwed. So they handled the pandemic unethically and ridiculously, and sits as the assistant health secretary. And the actual health secretary, Sarah, he doesn't really have a background in health. Like his name to claim, I mean, um, name to fame, or claim to fame. That's all you say. Claim to fame. Um, at least as I know him anyway, is he sued the Little Sisters of the Poor, some nuns. And you could say, well, he didn't sue the nuns. He sued the Trump administration, who are protecting these nuns who didn't want to provide like abortion type pills or whatever to their clients and stuff. Or was it just birth control? It was one of the two, but I think it was well, I'm assuming it's both, like Plan B stuff or whatever. So took it to court, and they ended up, having to go back and forth with court a lot. But should he be in that position? No. Should Levine be in that position? Absolutely not. But Biden Biden just doesn't do diversity hires. It's like he does diversity plus spite. Diversity plus spite. So anyway, Babylon Bee got kicked out, locked out their accounts. Like Elon Musk bought Twitter, and so he's you can say things. You can say something like Ellen Page is, well, you guess you use the name. You couldn't do. I think Jordan Peterson got in trouble for that on Twitter. So who now goes by Elliot anyway. It's just a different landscape, than it was before. So there's been a big shift, and I think this is kind of indicative of the big shift, the backlash that people had with Bud Light. And it wasn't just like a conservative echo chamber, because we'll say things online and we'll tweet like, "Oh, we got to do this. We should do this." But this was different. I went to one meeting, an event we were planning, and they're like, "Oh, don't have Bud Light." And I'm like, these people are not like chronically online. So it's interesting that this is kind of becoming like a common conversation of just people being upset that this happened. So it's amazing that it went so viral. So my apologies to people who are just kind of done and don't want to really see this guy too much. But again, I think he has like 10 million followers. It's not like if you just ignore him, he's just gone or whatever. So, but I think the story is important.
One thing I will not tolerate people saying about me is that I don't like beer, because I love beer and I always have. I built my platform.
Wait, hold on a second. So Dylan is opening up with that because the ad, obviously with Bud Light, and I never assumed that he didn't drink beer. I never assumed that. I don't know if anyone really assumed that, but my criticism, because I did talk about this when the story happened, besides the weirdness of him like in the bathtub with the bubbles or whatever, that was just a goofy little ad, but with the dancing. But when he did the March Madness ad, and I'm not gonna play it right now, but he didn't appear to know what March Madness was. So if you're doing some kind of content for a beer provider and the subject is March Madness, and you're in your days of girlhood and you're just like, I don't know what March Madness is. I'm sure a lot of women don't know what March Madness is, maybe. It's a pretty big thing. That doesn't mean there's not women who don't know what it is, but to come off as like this ditzy kind of person, because whether that's indicative of the character he's creating as a woman or indicative of what he does or doesn't know, that doesn't sound like that's a great match for that promotion of March Madness or for a beer brand, because beer and sports go, hand in hand most of the time. So it was a goofy ad anyway. So you don't have to validate that you like beer or whatever. I mean, you go to skeezy bars in your underwear and perform um with bands. So I don't doubt that you probably drank alcohol. That was never the concern. I think that, at least that I saw, but it was still a wacky ad.
On being honest with you, and what I'm about to tell you might sound like old news, but you know that feeling when you have something uncomfy like sitting on your chest? Well, that's how I feel right now. So this feels like the right thing to do. I took a brand deal with a company that I loved, and I posted a sponsored video to my page. And it must have been a slow news week, because the way that this ad got blown up, you would have thought I was like on a billboard or on a TV commercial or something major. But no, it was just an Instagram video. And the wildest part is that they also sent me one can with my face on it. You might have seen it. And funny story, I had the can around my house, but then I realized, wait, I need to protect this can. So I hid it somewhere, and now I can't find it because I hid it so well. But when I do find it, I feel like it needs to go in a museum, preferably behind bulletproof glass. And you might be thinking, Dylan, why bring it up now? I'm bringing it up because what transpired from that video was more bullying and transphobia than I could have ever imagined. And I should have made this video months ago, but I didn't. And I was scared, and I was scared of more backlash, and I felt personally guilty for what transpired. So I patiently waited for things to get better. But surprise, they haven't really. And I was waiting for the brand to reach out to me, but they never did. And for months now, I've been scared to leave my house. I have been ridiculed in public. I've been followed. And I have felt a loneliness that I wouldn't wish on anyone. And I'm not telling you this because I want your pity. I am telling you this because if this is my experience from a very...
Hold on. Yeah, freaking right. Yeah, freaking right. I don't believe that for a second, that not telling that because you don't want pity. Yeah, that's, but okay. If you say so.
privileged perspective, know that it is much, much worse for other trans people. For a company to hire a trans person and then not publicly stand by them is worse, in my opinion, than not hiring a trans person at all, because it gives customers permission to be as transphobic and hateful as they want. And the hate doesn't end with me. It has serious and grave consequences for the rest of our community. And we're customers too. I know a lot of trans and queer people who love beer, and I have some lesbian friends who could drink some of those haters under the table. But to turn a blind eye and pretend everything is okay, it just isn't an option right now. And you might say, but Dylan, I don't want to get political. Babe, supporting trans people, it shouldn't be political. There should be nothing controversial or divisive about working with us. And I know it's possible because I've worked with some fantastic companies who care, but caring about the LGBTQ plus community requires a lot more than just a donation somewhere during Pride Month. And all this to say, bottom line is that if you follow me, if I've made you smile, if you care about me, I need you to care about every trans person. And I need you to support us, and I need you to stand by us. And hey, it's still Pride Month. So I'm gonna celebrate being alive. And I'm gonna celebrate the trans people in my life and the ones I haven't met yet. And I'm going to celebrate the fact that no matter how many thousands of horrible messages or news anchors misgendering me or companies going silent, that I can look in the mirror and see the woman that I am and that I love being. And I know you were probably here for the tea of it all. But I would love for something productive to come from this. So there is a link in my bio to the.
Okay, so that's basically it. So so it's amazing to me that okay, first of all, I don't know how much they wanted to do a brand deal because Dylan being trends with someone in the comments said they don't believe he's on estrogen because it's been a long time, and apparently from when Dylan should have been on estrogen, and there's not any sort of remarkable changes. But I I see that, I get that. I don't understand why the feminization surgery and not the estrogen. Um, and I guess you could have the other effects of the estrogen and not wanna, um, possibly feel that, but I guess I don't get the, not going all the way, I guess. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not, but, if I assume they didn't really make the brand deal because Dylan is a just a trans person. The reason why they probably did it is because Dylan has like 10 million followers or more. I don't know. I haven't looked at his profile or whatever in a minute. So I'm assuming that it's more than 10 million. So if you're on social media and you have some kind of special thing for March Madness or whatever, and you want people to see it and people to know about it, would you go to, well, um, Dylan, he says drinks beer and there's other LGBT people who obviously drink beer, but Budweiser, this all American brand, the brand person ended up leaving the company, but before they there was a comment about joining and trying to get rid of that frat boy culture or whatever. Sorry, that's your thing. So if you want to diss those customers and reach out and to other people who don't, merge with that brand. That's a choice you've made. And so you can keep the folks like Dylan and lose, the blue collar worker who goes to may go to church on Sunday morning and or, like early mass and then hit up the game later with his boys. That's a choice you made. And it obviously has been disastrous for them. So him expecting Bud Light to have, stood up and stood by him as opposed to just biting the bullet and just keeping silent is pretty remarkable because he's saying that they should have just doubled down. He thinks they should have just doubled down and stood up to everyone else, all these customers that they have that no longer want it. Now, if you cared about the brand, um, why would you make that demand and make that demand or put that seed into the thoughts of all of your millions of followers that these brands are bad because they will not take your side. Like it's now I'm not blaming Dylan for the situation with Bud Light because Bud Light is the one who reached out and did the brand thing, and the organic kind of chaos happened as far as the backlash. So I'm not, they probably paid Dylan a lot of money to make the advertisement or whatever. So even accounts with like nowhere near the following can get like a couple $100. So they probably paid Dylan buku money. I can't blame or begrudge Dylan, but Dylan should be happy that Dylan took a job and got paid for it, and that was that. He's not a brand ambassador. He's not the face of Bud Light, though they put his face on a can. So if that's the case, then why should they do a special, you know, why should they do a special thing on his behalf? That doesn't make any sense. So there's that. But there's also the fact that Dylan is saying that there was such backlash that Dylan has felt. Now, I don't think people should be harassing Dylan like in public or if there's threats or anything like that. I don't think people should do that. I didn't like when James O'Keefe like cornered Dylan in an elevator or whatever. I'm like, you don't need to do that. Though I don't I there's a bit of irony in there because Dylan doesn't care about making you uncomfortable if he goes in the woman's bathroom. But if you go on an elevator and you harass him and want to ask some questions or whatever, that's just the worst. So um I'm not saying I'm not one to believe in karma, but it's there if it's real and it's a thing. And it's truly a thing because Dylan has in the past made comments about people who he deems as transphobic. And he had a video that said, well, it was like a couple minutes long. And at the end, he got to the point where he said, please don't call the police if I'm in the bathroom with you. And he's like, I love you. And said, P.S. Hopefully one day soon transphobia won't be as tolerated online, and I'd hate for those tweets to come back and haunt you. Okay, so I got the message. I think plenty of other women got the message. You know, a lot of I did a video about it on YouTube, on a YouTube short. It got a lot of views. A lot of views. um I wish my algorithm would push other things. Not that I'm saying I'm unhappy that they push those things, but I do a lot more other content that I find more important than the Dylan stuff. But um we heard it loud and clear. So this is a person who saying like, shut up if you know what's good for you. Like, we'll remember. Like, get in line because we're not gonna let this go, or other people will remember. And you want to be on the right side of history, right? So people deem transphobia to be like using pronouns that correlate with your actual gender instead of your gender identity. They say you're transphobic, and just basically, if you don't buy into it, they throw that label at you. And Dylan has said that he thinks it should be illegal for journalists to keep using he him pronouns when talking about Dylan. And Dylan said that he even finds that worse than being called a predator. Now, I didn't think people should really call him a predator, but when he said that, I'm like, well, that's really questionable. That's really strange. That's weird. And I also don't like that he trashed moms, or he did a video rating going into the bathroom and going to different women's bathrooms, and he gave like amusement park ones a low rating because this is where women judge me, when I'm in there. And I'm like, maybe because you're in there with their kids, sir. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why. So Dylan, he has this attitude, or at least to my perception, is they really thought that we were just on this trajectory of they were just going to win, period, point blank. And Jeffrey Marsh also did a video some time ago saying this is only going one way, and you will respect us. If you guys recall that, it was a pretty creepy video. And I'm just like, what do you mean we will respect? You can't make people respect you. You can terrorize them, I guess. Like, what do you mean? But they just thought they were taking the W. So people having this sort of backlash and saying, no, we're kind of sick of all this being shoved in our faces, shoved down our throats. No, we don't want to be called cis because I'm just a woman. I don't need a qualifier, and you can't buy your way into it. You can't think your way into it. It just is what it is, and you can live freely how you want to, but don't expect me to participate, and certainly don't advocate that the government gets involved and has to force me to participate, right? So I think this is shows that we're heading toward a direction of calming down this insanity, and a lot of this is a fad, and I hope it goes away. I know in other like countries, they were ahead of the curve as far as the transgenderism, and they're seeing um the repercussions of it and dialing back. And I wish we could just kind of be like, maybe we should turn around. Um, but our institutions are still pushing, but there is like public backlash that are like, you know what, we should look at, what we're kind of doing. Like this ideology doesn't make sense, or why do you want to force me to participate? Or why like even like the kids at schools who are just like, why can't we just learn in math class about math? Why didn't we need to watch this pride video right now? So I don't know, I'm a little encouraged, I guess. As far as things in the culture war, guys know I can be a bit cynical at times. Not negative though, but cynical. But I think I, I think we're on a turning the tide, I guess. And it's not that I'm saying this because I want to, I don't know, people say the darndest craziest things like, "Oh, you want to eradicate or people or make them not exist." It's like, "No, what do you mean?" So but it is interesting that people say if have laws where you can't like do mutilations to kids or whatever, that they say that's making trans kids not exist. And I'm like, if you need a surgery to make you, does that thing exist? Like, like you have gender dysphoria. That's not going to change. If you have a gender identity, that shouldn't matter whether you have surgery or not. So people saying this hysterical language of like you no longer exist is just really, really, really out there. But I'm glad that we're taking some wins as far as compelled speech. But moving on, the Supreme Court had a ruling today. There was a graphic designer in Colorado, and Colorado has been such a bad place for this stuff, or really notable in this kind of sphere as far as these cases with religious liberty. So you have the Masterpiece Cake Shop case, where there was a baker who didn't want to make a particular cake that violated his faith, and so he ended up taking a win at the Supreme Court, but the ruling was so narrow that he found himself back in court again. So Colorado believes that they should be able to compel you um, to have certain speech or whatever. So this graphic designer, um, so if you're in a particular field, like if she was making websites for weddings, Colorado believed that you should be open to like all, I guess, stuff. So if she's a Christian and she didn't want to make a website for a gay wedding, they're like, no, you cannot do that, and subject to fines and or whatever sorts of things. So it's compelled speech. It's coerced compelled speech. And so she found herself before the Supreme Court, and they ended up ruling in her favor. And this is a good thing for speech. This is a good thing for speech, but people are upset. And you had Pete Buttigieg who was making, comments like, "Oh, it's wrong to discriminate. This isn't right, and you shouldn't use a religion to, etc." Blah blah blah. And I'm like, you guys are so happy, and and I'm talking in general because I didn't look at his feed yesterday, but the courts and the liberal justices and the commentators and all these people were like, no, we need discrimination with the affirmative action case. They were so pro discrimination yesterday. They believed in it. They said it was necessary to rectify X, Y, and Z of systemic racism and slavery and how black people can be whatever in this country. And it's like, but why discriminate against the Asians? Like, no one was making the case, at least from the commentary and stuff, that Asian students weren't being discriminated against because of in Harvard and other places because of grades and their test scores, and that black people were way more likely to get in with the same test scores. No one was making that case. Everyone was saying that it's good. Some people were leaving out that it was another minority group who's being discriminated against, because that makes you look really bad, right? But they were saying we need to have this, like, maybe, and people would acknowledge it's not perfect, like Obama acknowledged it's not perfect, but they believed in the actual discrimination. Today discrimination is bad. And it's It's pretty wacky. And I read yesterday through the dissent of some of the comments from the dissenting opinion in the affirmative action case. And again, all of them are just like, no, it's good to discriminate against some people. But Justice Sotomayor, she she's all like, no, discrimination is bad. She said, I fear the symbolic damage of the court's opinion is done, but that does not mean that we are powerless in the face of this decision. The meaning of our constitution is found not in any law volume, but in the spirit of the people who live under it. Every business owner in America has a choice whether to live out the values in the constitution. Make no mistake, individuals discrimination is not one of them. Discrimination in any form and in any degree has no justifiable part whatever in our democratic way of life. Again, discrimination in any form and in any degree has no justifiable part whatever in our democratic no justifiable part whatever in our democratic way of life. No part. But yesterday was good. Yesterday was good. Today, First Amendment is bad. First Amendment is bad. By the way, these cases, whether it was Jack Phillips with the Masterpiece Cake Shop and this designer, they're not saying that they would not have gay clients. They're not saying that. They're saying that they don't want to do particular expressive things that they feel would violate their conscience. Like if you want to come into Jack's shop and buy a birthday cake, that's fine. If you're gay, if you want maybe even like a normal cake and it's he's not making a special one for weddings, that's fine. You can do that. You want a website about dogs? That's fine. But they just didn't want to make one about a wedding, which I don't understand. Just go somewhere else. And people will, when I bring up cases like these, people will throw back and like, wow, you feel someone turned you away because you're black. What? I don't feel like that's the same thing. I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole today, but they're not the same thing. But like me being black and existing as a black person, not the same as you, like having you committing an action. Like they would still serve gay people, they would still serve black people. That's, and still, I don't even think that's the same, but that's kind of more the same level. But you having a wedding is not the same as me going in and buying, a cupcake. Okay? Not the same. But I will say this, I would not want the government to force someone to feed me who despises me or doesn't like me or to that degree where they want to refuse service. And these people, I'm not saying these people dislike them. They just, love the sinner, hate the sin or whatever. That's the idea. I don't know how they feel in their hearts or whatever, but I'm assuming that's what it's more along the lines of. But you being like, nah, I don't like black people. I don't want to eat your cake. Why would I go to your cake shop if that's how you felt? And I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who feel that way, who are low key racist or whatever, but still are like, I got a business. Green is for everybody, right? So you go in the business and they treat you well. Maybe they talk like crap when you go home or whatever. But you know what? I enjoyed my patty melt for the time. Thank you, sir. But if it's somebody who like flat out does not want to serve me, why would I want the government to make them do that? That's crazy to me. That is crazy to me. And people don't even believe what they're saying when they push back against it. Like I don't think a lot of people anyway. Like let's have the scenario. Think of this scenario. Do you think a gay caterer, okay? Do you think a gay caterer should be compelled, coerced by the government to cater a conversion therapy camp, including making cakes that say, praise God, we prayed the gay away? Do you think the government should be forced to do that? I don't think there's a single person on the planet, in the country. I don't like to deal with absurd absolutes, but I feel kind of confident. I don't think there's anyone who thinks that the government should do that, because the people who would probably be like, oh yeah, we should force the government to do stuff, wouldn't be okay with them forcing them to do that. So in the matter of principle, if you don't think the government should be able to compel speech and that's protected and stuff too. So if you don't think that someone should be forced to be able to do that, why do you think Christians should be forced to violate their faith, or think, or violate their convictions. And by the way, I don't think that people should have to keep going to like religious sort of arguments to win stuff. Like it's just a matter of, can the government compel you to do this stuff? And I think it raises an interesting question, one I don't think we'll like solve today, but I just want to throw it out there. In general, would you rather have full power to discriminate and the government can't protect you from discrimination? Or would you rather have no one can discriminate, but the government can force you to comply with anything? What would you rather have? Because I would rather have the freedom to discriminate, even at the risk of someone discriminating against me. And you can say, what about Jim Crow? The government did that. The government did that. Forcing businesses and places to separate, like even like church services and stuff. Like there's big tent revival, like A.E. Allen and stuff, where they'd have to like put up like ropes to separate the coloreds, and and by the time the services were over, people shouting and dancing or whatever, those ropes and stuff came down. But the point is that that's something evil that the government decided to do. I think capitalism and that incentive to make money is going to supersede a lot of things. There's a lot of Christians who don't care about this stuff, and like, and would bake a cake for your gay wedding and no problem. You can just find a different baker. It's not hard. It's not hard. And there's we still have public accommodation laws, but you're talking about like special like commission sort of things, and people get so mad and they'll say, well, we need to protect the rights. Well, do you care about rights and liberty, or do you just want to be ahead? You just want your privileges protected, because that's what it seems like. Like, and there's plenty of like libertarian gay folks who are like, yeah, don't force someone to bake a cake. So I'm not even throwing like the whole hatchet at the whole LGBT community, because I know there's like plenty of gay libertarians that are just like, that feel my the same way I would. Like, why would I want them to bake a cake? Like, why would I want them to? Or it's like, okay, cool, I'll just find somebody, I'll give someone else my business. And by the way, customers discriminate against businesses all the time. I know, because I'll be at a convention somewhere, like selling my books and stuff, something, and you'll have white people, black people, whoever, come up to the table and was like, I want to support the black tables. I'm like, I'll take your money. Like, I will totally take your money if that's how you feel, and I got an advantage today. Okay. I make a good product. I like my product, and I like your money. So whatever. If your convictions have led you here today, you know. But yeah, did you not discriminate against all the white vendors next to me? Sure you did. Sure you did. And I'm gonna take your money. I'm not gonna give you a lecture. Well, I'm gonna take your money. No way. I have a table to pay back. So um I think if we really push that question, like, would you rather have the freedom to discriminate and the government can't like interfere and be like, I don't know, the force you to obey, their whims, versus like the government has to make everyone do everything? I think most people would take the freedom. I think most people take the liberty. I think so. um but to the people who were upset yesterday about the discrimination, well, were upset and saying that discrimination is good, and today discrimination is bad. That's wonky. That's wackadoodle. And people are so upset. They're like, and on the last day of Pride Month. I felt like Pride Month wasn't that big of a deal. Like, I haven't gone to a lot of stores, so I don't know how much stuff is everywhere, I guess. I haven't gone, I don't think I've been to the mall this whole month. Um I did go to like a burger joint briefly, and there was where was it? It was Shake Shack. And they had the inclusive flag like hanging and stuff. And of course there was the stuff at the White House, but I don't feel like it was as big as it was at least 2 years ago. Last year, I think the after the Supreme Court ruling on Roe, I think so many people were focused on the Supreme Court stuff that I don't know, it didn't seem to have like the big culture impact that it had like the year before, but it really felt like there was a damper on Pride Month this year, especially with people pushing back on Target and people pushing back on but Budlight. So, um, and there's a lot of LGBT people who are just like, I don't like Pride Month, and I'm not a part of a community. A friend of mine, a mutual on TikTok, I just watched one of their videos, and they're like, I'm not in a community. Like, I don't like the community. They don't like the stuff that goes on at parades, and they really feel like a lot of these activists are setting them backwards. And I think that's obviously true. I think that's obviously true. But they'll keep doing it because the crazies will give them clicks and stuff on their side, and then we'll talk about it, and it's just a never-ending cycle. But people need to quit. Like that person showing the trans woman showing his fake tits at the White House. That had the community felt that was a really negative impact on the community. Now I think that something that's even worse. I mentioned this yesterday. I didn't have time to find the clip. And I don't know if I can find the whole video because I'm sure that it's gone. But I saw like someone replying to it, so I know it exists. So I just got to see if someone has the full thing. But that person at the White House, who they apologized for showing the fake tits, they had a video where they were upset that people weren't using the proper pronouns for the Covenant shooter who killed staff and kids not too long ago. So that's the person who the White House decided to come to their event. And they're not a small, channel or whatever, small influencer. So that's the person who they decided to invite into the White House. Someone who wanted to make sure that a killer who gunned down kids, you got their pronouns right. That's who the White House likes to uplift and celebrate with. The fact that the only thing they found embarrassing was flashing of the fake boobs is disgusting. Now that was disgusting and inappropriate, but that person should have never gone to the White House. But those people continue to make the community look bad. So if you are watching and you are, same-sex attracted or bisexual, or you have gender dysphoria, you got to reel in. You're not responsible for crazy people. You're not. Just no one is responsible for people who aren't them, right? But you might want to be like, bro, calm down. For real. Last thing I want to mention is that student loans that got shot down in the Supreme Court as well. And if you were looking forward to it, like I know people who knew it was wrong but still wanted to get money to get their debts cleared. Because if they're offering it, why not, right? If someone else, just because someone else is dumb and trying to buy you or whatever, it doesn't, you take advantage of the carrot that's in front of you, I guess. That got shot down. And the reason why it got shut down is because they never had power to do anything about it. And Joe Biden was stringing people along, trying to find a way or whatever. And it was really a midterm tactic. Like people knew before that he couldn't just, forgive all the student debt. That was something that was known. Nancy Pelosi actually said it. And not only did Nancy Pelosi say it, Gorsuch, who wrote the opinion, actually quoted Nancy Pelosi in the ruling. Let me see if I can see. I think I liked it somewhere. Yeah. He included her included her quote. People think that the president of the United States has the power for debt forgiveness. He does not. He can postpone, he can delay, but he does not have that power. That has to be an act of Congress. So I remember her saying that, and that's been referenced a lot, but I think that's hilarious that it was included in the opinion because they know he didn't have the power to do that. So they try to use the Heroes Act, which was made for 9/11, to be able to do this, which I found pretty despicable. But the court deemed that he didn't have that authority. So people still are upset, and they're letting their cards show that the Biden keeps doing these things, so they'll get shot down by the court, and he'll be like, "Oh, the court, this rogue court." And then people say, well, we need to expand the courts, or we need to make sure that we win so they can, nominate people who would be super, super left wing and do all the things that we want. And they don't care about uplifting the Constitution or the integrity of the court. They just want to win. They just want to win. And so Joe Biden does this stuff knowing he has no authority, is basically like, I dare you to sue me. They sue him, it goes to this court, they shoot it down, and it's just like, it's those darn Republicans. It's all Trump's fault. It's all their fault. Vote for us. Because, well, the Congress could have pushed for some kind of debt forgiveness or whatever. And I think it's so funny because Biden is, laws and stuff that he pushed and lobbied, whatever, or people lobbied him. He's part of the reason why your stuff can't just get like canceled. So all this stuff is hilarious. But here's some commentary that really, really lets you know what's the end goal of Biden's behavior here.
Administration had argued that they did have this emergency power authority through the HEROES Act and that there was precedent after 9/11. And in fact, Congress had reaffirmed the HEROES Act, expanded it in 2003. Congress, the legislature, also made it permanent in 2007. So I'm not understanding why it didn't apply here.
Right. And so the court, as I scan the opinions, taking a very literalist, vision of the HEROES Act. So the HEROES Act in 2003 uses the words waive or modify. And cancellation is seen to go beyond sort of waive or modify, right, in the court's view of canceling this debt. So I think it's a kind of bridge too far kind of argument. I just want to say a couple of things on that. I think Elizabeth Prelogar, the Solicitor General coming in for the government, did an amazing job during oral argument in saying, like, the real sort of key provision of the HEROES Act is emergency. Like, if there's an emergency, then you get to waive or modify.
And here they're using the COVID emergency.
Yeah, and waive, to me, seems like a very broad word. In oral argument, there's a lot of back and forth about whether modify, like, the chief sort of quoted Justice Scalia saying, like, I suppose the French Revolution might have been said to modify the status quo in France, but that would be a stretch of that word and would only be used tongue-in-cheek. Okay. But waive is also there, and waive is an actually very broad word, right? So it's a little bit, confounding, right, how the court goes here. And then finally on this point of, like, oh, President Biden kind of failed here. I mean, President Biden did his job, right? So I'm hoping that the American people can look at this and say, like, we know where to put the blame for the failure of this $430 billion of loan forgiveness.
Well, let's see.
Because it's not the president's fault; it's the court's fault.
It's not his fault. It's just the court's fault. Nothing is ever Joe Biden's fault. Just no accountability. And somebody that I was following was just retweeting people saying, like, Biden should just ignore the courts. What are they going to do? I guess it's an interesting question. When the executive branch just ignores the judicial branch, that would be interesting. But there's a reason why we're supposed to have a system of checks and balances. So it's not good that we're getting to this point where people just want to ignore the checks, and they're accusing the conservatives of being like a rogue court or whatever, and of, I don't know, Republicans or Trump or people being so out there and radical. But these people are absolutely radical. So they talk about trying to undermine our democracy and our institutions, and they're blatantly doing it. They get mad at Trump for saying, oh, the election was stolen and other stuff like that, which, I wouldn't frame it the way that he frames it. Like, I don't think votes were changed or something like that. But can I, like, point to, like, being undermined at every turn? Sure, I could easily do that. But when you want to pack the courts because they don't go your way, when you want to rig different or gerrymander different districts or whatever, to get your way, there's all kinds of different things that you can do to make it so that we go to a point of kind of no return on certain stuff. There's some crazy stuff being passed in Michigan. I gotta do some more digging in it, but the Democrats have been waiting for control, and they have control, and There's one instance where the governor is about to sign something about compelled speech, which is funny because I'm like, okay, well, the Supreme Court just ruled against compelled speech, so where's it going to go from here? And our attorney general we talked earlier this week how they were, she's upset because Hamtramck and all Muslim city council and Muslim mayor was like, let's just have a neutral flag policy. And she said, no, that's wrong. How dare you? Flying the American flag is a how dare you moment. Oh, because we won't fly the gay the pride flag. That's a bad thing. How would you feel if there was a Christian flag with some scriptures from Leviticus in it? How would you feel about that? How would you feel? Or um, how would you feel about that? You probably not like that. You'd say it was discriminatory. So these people don't. They said yesterday they're okay with discrimination. They're okay with discrimination, but they want to protect the particular classes that they want to protect. That's what it is. So we're living in weird times, but at least we got some wins on the court. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. That is a show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on the website, articles, videos, etc. Check out different merchandise that we have at the store, like different shirts and mugs and whatnot, all kinds of goodies that you guys can find. And I keep saying there will be more merch soon. There will be more merch soon. I saw someone from Canada was in the chat. What's going? I don't know. I'm reading a little bit about what's going on with Canada and like canceling news links. I got to read some more up on them. Like something seems very strange. I don't know what's going on in Canada. I'll have to report back to you guys. But I'm like, this sounds weird. But we got some merch there for you guys at the website for all kinds of different stuff that you guys can check out. Please check out my different books that I have. Like, of course, God is Building Against Abortion. Man, sorry, that's the wrong graphic. I mentioned how Demi Lovato's song made me think about an article that I wrote, Quest to Become God. So I wrote a little blurb and shared the link, and someone under it was like, because I said thou shalt not murder is not a sillier concept than believe all women or trust the woman or my body, my choice, which is even true. And so so my point was that it's not that people are upset that I ascribe to a moral authority. It's just that my moral authority won't allow me to subject myself to your moral authority, right? So that's really the problem. And I just don't think that women, it is child sacrifice, just to be frank, but so I don't believe that women are worthy of that sort of worship, so and I think that we should have them maximize the most liberty, and maximizing the most liberty would be if they can both live, they should both live. So someone commented and they're like, they said that using thou shalt not kill is the worst example because it's only for the Jews. And I'm like, what? And they said, and they mentioned like in the Bible tells you how to perform an abortion. And I knew they were talking about Numbers 5 because I've had to have the conversation. It's been so painful having to have it over and over and over again. And that's part of the reason why my book exists. I spend quite a bit of time on Numbers 5, 11 through whatever in my book. So I'm like, I sent a link to a video in my comment thread. I'm like, it's not about an abortion. It's not. And I wrote an article in the past about it before, but people just don't want to let that go. And then I'm like, do you really think that Christ and the disciples that they taught that only Jews are not supposed to murder people? That only Jews are supposed to be the only ones who have no other gods, that don't commit adultery? Like Jews are the only ones who are supposed to honor their parents? I'm like, it's pretty wackadoodle. New Testament, definitely affirms the moral laws as we call them. So anyway, it's part of the reason why I wrote my book, because I was sick of people getting so many things wrong, I guess, or misusing it or whatever. But I also, focus on not just theology, but science and philosophy and other things too, and definitely politics. I focus heavily on U.S. politics because I'm from the US. Like I say a lot of things about Michigan and whatever, but I mentioned a thing or two about UK and some other studies and things going around the world, but it's definitely a central based sort of US stuff. But if you're from another country, there's still a lot of good information in there, especially like some of the philosophical breakdowns. I'm thinking about like since I write about this topic so much, maybe I might um write something sooner rather than later that doesn't have any religious stuff in it, but just goes through or isn't focused on the religious stuff, but just has some breakdowns of philosophical arguments and stuff like that. So um, I'll think about it. I'm thinking that's just kind of what's on my mind. But I don't know, it might be a little too soon though. And I'm working on some fiction books right now. I got to finish my some sequels and stuff. So I'm really excited about a lot of things going on this year. But God bless you guys, and I will see you on Monday.